Hi, this is Mike with Rogue Media Network. As Texas opens back up, some of our shows have chosen to continue to record from remote locations. Some of our other shows have started recording in studio with very few people observing social distancing. Thanks for listening, and please be safe. This is Central Texas Living with Ann Harder.
If you are in the market for a great summer read, may I suggest Waco novelist Margaret Ferguson's new book, The X. It's book 2, in fact, of the Rogue Warrior series. Now, Margaret, it's great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
With us to talk about your work. I love talking to writers because I'm just fascinated by the process and fascinated by, the dedication it takes to be a writer.
Well, I've been doing it since I was 22 years old.
So you kind of always known you wanted to, and was it always
known.
Fiction? Or are you a poet? Or what kind of writing?
I started with poetry when I was in junior high and started writing my first novel when I was 18, but didn't finish it till I was 22. And so it's just kind of progressed from there.
Well, how many books have you written now? Where are you?
I've written 5 that have been published. I've got 3 that are written that need to be rewritten before I get them published. They're sitting in a box in a closet. And 25 others that I want to write.
25?
Yes.
So let's talk about specifically The X and this Rogue series. What was kind of the emphasis? Are there certain characters that you're kind of weaving through? Is it over a time period? Or how did you figure all this? I would think you have to have an idea ahead of time.
I do. Actually, the way it started was it was supposed to be one standalone book and with this one character, Eddie Rourke. And as it stands now, we're going to have 10 in this series. And the way it started with the one character is when I was 22 years old, I had this dream. And in this dream, I had this particular setting in mind. And when I woke up, I was like, I need to make that into a book. And so I wrote it all down and I saved it. And my mentor about 4 years ago, had asked me or told me I needed to write a series. And I had some series in mind that were historical fiction. And so I pitched the 3 different things to him. And he's like, I don't know about that. And so I pitched him the character of Eddie, and he loved the character. And he said, you need to write a series for this guy. So I did.
Well, and he's ex-military.
He's ex-military.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of military folks in your family? I mean, you seem to really have a great understanding of that life is like.
Well, my uncle and actually 2 of my uncles are military, ex-military. But most of the information I got was from some of my sources. I've got a couple of ex-military, one sniper, ex-Army, another Texas Army National Guard, and then some local police that I visit with to make sure I get the technology, the terminology, everything correct.
Yeah, there was a lot I noticed in the book, The X, there a lot of research that you had to have done because you reference actual historic events that happened from the Branch Davidians to the Luby's massacre in Killeen. I mean, those are all stories that I covered back in my radio days.
Yeah, when we worked together.
I was going to say, we've known each other a very long time.
Yes, we have.
When you were at WACO, that was back in the
80s
and 90s.
Early 90s, yes.
Yeah, when, of course, these events were happening. But you drew on that for this kind of scenario. Do you want to set up a little bit, without a lot of spoilers,
Right.
set up what your situation is in The X?
In the situation I've created is Eddie is having lunch with an old flame. And while he's there, 2 men come in and take the restaurant hostage. And their goal is to make the VA pay attention to certain issues, especially of people that have dealt with Agent Orange from the Vietnam War.
So it's kind of a noble, in a way, a
Yes.
noble purpose, but
Yes.
how they were going about it was
How they're
horrifying.
going about it, right, is horrifying. And yet, so in some ways I show you what their thinking is in regards to why they're doing what they're doing, but in the end, they're still taking hostages and harming people.
Yeah, and they're demanding the media.
And demanding the media.
To come in just like, oh man, the Branch, we want the media, the Branch
Yep.
Davidians. to tell their side of,
Exactly.
of what was going on. And but I think what was really what was gripping to me was the writing of the dialogue. To me, as I'm reading it, it's like watching a TV show. Have you ever thought about writing for the screen?
I actually, my second book, Letters from Becca, I actually turned into a screenplay and went to a screenwriting class, and haven't done anything with it since then. But yes, when I envision a book, it's a movie in my head, and it's on a continuous loop until it's on paper. And once it's on paper and on the shelf, then I move on to the next movie in my head.
So it just sort of, in a way, haunts you until you get it.
It does, and literally, I can jump to any book in any of my series or any of my standalone books that I haven't written yet, and I can tell you what's going to happen because it's just something that is in my head. These characters are in there.
To me, it's just fascinating. And as you say, when you're writing the dialogue, I would guess it's just flowing because so and so is saying this, and when that one responds, and
the characters drive a lot of the dialogue, and I begin writing how I feel that they should speak or what they're going to say, or their personality, putting it into the dialogue, and then they pretty much take over. When I get on a roll, they take over.
What genre would you kind of consider your writing to be? I was appreciative of that was some strong language, but it was not F-bombs everywhere.
Yes. I am a Christian that's a writer, and so I write edgy Christian. I don't write Amish fiction. I have contemporary romance that are out there, contemporary inspirational romance, and then these are political and military thrillers.
Okay, well, then you do. I mean, there's actually, pigeonholes for these. So now let's talk about the process. You are self-published. So how did that all happen for you?
Again, I've wanted to write for all my life, and I owned my own catering business for 17 years. And when I sold it, I basically said, "Okay, God, what do I do now?" And my husband is a very big supporter of mine, and he said, "You've always wanted to write, so write." And so my brother-in-law, who has been very successful in self-publishing, started 2 years before me. And so he and his wife helped me through the entire process. They helped me with the typesetting and the advertising and how to set up, my Facebook account and my website so that it would be more like an author's page.
Well, and even the artwork. I mean, everything is very professional about.
I use his artist. He's actually in Greece. He's fantastic, and he's done some phenomenal artwork on all of my books. I have a vision in my head of what I want it to look like, and I basically search out clip art or tell him what I want, and then I send it to him, and within a day, he gets me back what you see in front of you.
So how is it marketed? Is this on Amazon, or how do folks
It is
get your
on
books?
Amazon. I'm working on Barnes and Noble. It's in Amazon, on Kindle, and on paperback. And I also sell them when I do author events, when I'm doing autograph signing. But right now, those are exclusively where I'm marketing at.
Yeah, of course, public events aren't really happening too often for anybody right now. What advice do you have to someone who maybe like yourself thought, I'd always wanted to write? What are the odds I could get an actual book out there?
The odds now are 1,000 times better than they were 25 years ago. Because when I first started writing, I sent all of my material out to many publishers, mostly starting with query letters, and most of the query letters came back with rejection. And back then self-publishing was looked at kind of down. It was like, desperate people self-publish. And over the last 15 years, self-publishing has just exploded, and especially in the last, say, 6 or 7 years. And now there are publishers out there that are actually asking for people, to send them books because the self-publishing market is the majority of the market out there. The big 5 publishers aren't, making what they were before. They can still do all the promotions, and they can bring more success and notoriety to a book than I can as a self-published author. However, to be able to be a self-published author, it's so much easier to do now than it was.
I would think you have to give up a lot of a lot of control in a way. But would you consider going with a major publishing house? And then
I
how would
would
you choose
love-
which one?
I would love to go with a major publishing house. I have been in contact with Entangled Publishing, which I think is under Random House, and they have reviewed and rejected 3 of my 5 books, but they have given me great feedback and invited me to bring them back after I do some rewrites. And I have another publisher, the largest publisher of Native American books in the world, the Chickasaw Press. And
you have a connection with
I have a connection with them because I'm part Chickasaw.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been bugging Wiley Barnes, the publisher there, for the last 4 years. And he has told me that they are looking at possibly opening another imprint because originally they were nothing but nonfiction. And now, 2 years ago, they started doing historical fiction. And so he's encouraged me to do historical fiction, and he's even approved a pitch that I made to him. But I can't really jump off of this series and start another one. I need to get this one rolling.
Right. Right, and
build my readership.
You've got the 2 books now.
Right.
Tell me a little bit. You sent me the first book, but I went ahead and read the X first.
Yes.
So what did I miss in the first book?
In the first one, Eddie is left for dead in Afghanistan. He's on a mission. His chopper gets shot down, and he's the only survivor. And he is rescued by a small Pashtun village. And anybody that is familiar with the peoples of Afghanistan will find that they are basically a very kind people. And I got the story idea from my son, who was a missionary over there. And they gave me stories about the peoples and their faith and just all of their circumstances while they were over there. And through them, I got to meet other people on their team, some that lived up in the mountains. And through many of her stories about, drying clothes and having to leave them out for a week because they had to defrost, to dry. Things like that I would build into the storyline. But basically, in that small village is a missionary, and she's an American missionary. And so we have the conflict of having a missionary in a Muslim nation. And so you see both sides of it. You see his need to be over there and why he's over there and what his job is while he's over there. And he doesn't necessarily agree with why she's over there and doesn't understand why she would put herself in that situation. And so through that, I build the 2 characters that continue into the X.
Mm-hmm, right. And so the third book is
still a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still working on the final draft of it. I have it about 3/4 of the way written. And this one will take place more so in Mexico.
So, and the name of it, do you have a name yet?
I have a name tentatively picked out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting to confirm that right now.
Well, it was really, it was so much fun for me to read it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, as I say. I mean, the action aspect, I was really kind of blown away by it. I was not expecting that from you. I think I was expecting, a romance novel about an ex-boyfriend or whatever. It was not anything like that. It was so many references to, like I say, stories that I reported on. And even the name of a good friend of ours, I told you, I just burst out laughing when a character named Thrash shows up. And when you described her as a blonde bombshell, I know exactly who you're. It was a coworker of ours, and I just roared. So when you got to name your characters, you do draw on folks you know.
I do. Some of the personalities of some of the characters, she's very much an alpha female.
Oh, yes.
And so when I was creating that character, I was like, that's her. So
yeah.
I went ahead and gave that character's name Thrash.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll pick people that I know to kind of honor them in the books by giving a name in there. Odin Weller is another one. She's a good friend of mine that lives out in Houston. But once a character starts taking on a personality, sometimes I'll think of a friend that has a personality, and if not, then I just make up a name.
Yeah, go to the phone booth.
Go to the phone booth, right? The phone book.
Oh well, it's fun to talk to you and to hear about this. And before we go, I want to ask you some little questions
Sure.
to get to know you a little better. They're ones that were like the ones the late James Lipton used on his TV show Inside the Actors Studio.
I love that show.
Did you love that show?
I loved that
All
show.
right, so what is your favorite word, Miss Arthur?
What is my favorite word? Faith.
All right, your least favorite word.
My least favorite word is a very bad cuss word.
Okay, let's not say it then. You use asterisks. You did use it, and there were asterisks. Is that the one I'm thinking
No,
of?
that's not the one.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
A good cause, somebody that I know that really needs help. I try not to be an enabler, but a really good cause is what turns me on, whether it's feeding the homeless or helping out somebody at church that needs their lawn mowed or groceries picked up or whatever. It's just that really inspires me as a person.
Yeah. What turns you off?
What turns me off is people that lie. People that lie, and when you know they're lying. Yeah.
What sound do you most love?
The sound of my grandkids' voices.
Yeah. What sound do you hate?
Myself going over and over again. The sound of my own voice.
Those little crutches. What other profession would you like to try? You've been a caterer. You're obviously a writer.
I've done so many professions that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the radio station. I can't think of another one that I would really like to try. I thought for a long time I'd want to be a teacher, but after homeschooling my grandson for the last few weeks, it's fun, but I don't think I'd want to do it.
Oh, well, maybe that answers my next question. What job do you know you wouldn't enjoy?
Right.
All right. And finally, what do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done, my good and faithful servant.
Yeah, scriptural.
Scriptural.
So how can folks, again, get a copy of The X? Maybe they'd like to read both in this soon-to-be trilogy. The name of the first book is?
The Missionary.
The Missionary. Okay. So how can they get those, Margaret?
They can go to Amazon, or they can go to my website, which is margaretfergusonbooks.com. And I also have a Facebook page. They could go there. Somebody could message me. I always try to message back. But that's... Amazon is the main thing. They could also go to the Waco Public Library because all of my books are in the Waco Public Library. They're also in the Hewitt Public Library. And
Good. Is it like a local authors section or?
Yes, they
That's
put it in the
cool.
local authors section.
That's good. Well,
Yes.
I'm delighted to have a local author here on the podcast.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
you
me.
taking some time to be with us, Margaret.
Well, I really appreciate you. You're a great lady, and it's an honor to be here.
Oh, thanks, Margaret.
What's the one thing people always say they wish they still had after a disaster or fire? Photographs. Revision Photo Restoration is dedicated to helping preserve and restore your memories. Take advantage of this extra time you have at home to go through those old boxes of photos. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the process, follow them on Pinterest for organizational tips and tricks for old photos. They have on-site fire and weatherproof storage facilities to ensure the safety of your images, so you don't have to ship off all your memories to a larger company. Revision can handle everything from slides and negatives to film and prints. Revision Photo Restoration is local to Waco and located at 2001 Franklin Avenue. Call 254-297-9754 for an appointment or instructions on how to send in files digitally. Revision Photo Restoration. Check them out on Instagram at Revision Photo.
Hello, and thank you for tuning into KNOW Waco. I am your host, Debbie, here to help you get in the know about Waco. So you may be asking yourself, why am I here? I'm here to be your tour guide through Waco. I'm here to tell you all the goings-on in and around Waco. I'm going to give you the 411 on what's happening, what's going on, and what events you should go to. This is your host, Debbie, signing off. Now that you know, go. Just go, Waco.
You are going on a run.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
For many years, CareNet Pregnancy Center has provided compassionate care for women who find themselves in crisis due to pregnancy. And for 14 years, Deborah McGregor has served as executive director. I know you consider that work a calling.
I do. I didn't at first. I think I didn't know what I was doing there. I just answered a call, an ad, but I look back and go, yeah, God really did prepare me for this. I made a comment yesterday on one of our Facebook pages that we had taken a mobile outreach out to Marlin, and 35 years ago, almost on the very same spot, was where I was involved in the first pro-life rally, if you would. And I had just learned about what abortion was. A friend of mine showed me a picture, and I went, oh, that can't be right. And some church ladies had asked me to be the Baptist women's president or something, which was so funny because I never even prayed out loud. So I was like, okay, well, I'm supposed to pray for missionaries around the world. Then all of a sudden I saw that what was happening in our own city, in our own country, and I went, why don't we do something about that? And so anyway, it was funny. But it was 35 years ago. And so I just kind of reflected on that and thought, who would have thought that all the open doors that I've gone through, and that's kind of the way I am. I joke about that. I don't set goals. I just look to see what's close. And then think, well, that probably won't kill me, and I'll try that. And so just going through law school and, education and practice and all of that, and then my heart being broken about this issue that just kind of come full circle. So it was really sweet.
Yeah, I was going to say, by training, you're an attorney.
Yes.
How has that kind of figured in to what you do? I know you have a passion for helping women in crisis pregnancies.
Well, I think, God made me an advocate. So, and, when you couple that with just your heart being broken for me particularly, it has been for, I used to joke with even, other attorneys to say, look, if it's a child or an older person, like, that's it. I will take you down. Like that, I am an advocate for children and for the elderly. And I just found myself, really, that's where my passion lies most. And I think that's for those that can't speak for themselves or that don't have the confidence to speak for themselves. And then, especially in this work, I have met so many influential people that have such a good heart, but they don't have a place to work out that burden. And so to be able to lend the influence that I have with other people and in other areas to those people that don't have any influence is just such a privilege.
Well, and I know involved with what you do is education, trying to, let a woman know, that maybe there's another option besides abortion for them. Mm-hmm. But for some, they feel like they're in a hopeless situation. So walk us through what do you do to help a woman that contacts you?
Well, for example, generally the entry point for someone that's never heard of us or maybe that was referred to us and is afraid she's pregnant, that's kind of where, you would feel like we serve every pregnant woman in Waco because we see about 2,500 a year. But half of all pregnancies statistically and have been for years are unplanned. That doesn't mean they're all unwanted. But for those women and families who feel like they just can't, the timing's bad, someone's lost a job, they have other children they'll feel like they have to sacrifice. The first thing that we can do is to slow them down and say, okay, this decision does not have to be made today. And so they will call, we'll invite them in. We do a pregnancy test. We tell them how far along they are. Also, March of Dimes says 1 in 4 pregnancies may end in miscarriage on its own. And so we don't want them paying for an abortion that may not have been a viable pregnancy. So that's one of the first thing we do is to say, okay, are you pregnant? How far along are you? If you're considering abortion, what kind of procedure, given how far along you are, would you be looking at? What would the cost of that be? And then let's take a look and see if it's even a viable pregnancy. And then, after that, just giving them that factual information so that they can just kind of slow down a minute and think about it. And especially if someone is maybe, I'm going to say pressuring them to abort. Sometimes it may not feel like pressure. Like, for example, father of the baby may say, this is what we hear a lot, well, I'll support whatever she does. But oftentimes what she wants to hear is, I'll be there. And so they don't know, the guy thinks, well, I'm being supportive, and he may not know that what she wants to hear is that you're going to go the distance with her, regardless of the relationship. And even with parents oftentimes the same way. And so for us to be able to counsel with them and say, before this happened, how did you feel about abortion, or how did you feel about adoption? And oftentimes they'll say, oh, well, I think it's wrong. I don't think so. And so we can just kind of work with them through that and gently, ask, might you return to that position once this crisis is over? And then would that be something that would torment you? And if so, might we explore another option? But it's always very gentle, very permission driven. We don't, we will share fetal development. We'll share how far along they are. But it's just, again, all permission driven. And then if we can just get her to stop and think about, rather than, because when a woman's in that situation, she doesn't necessarily identify with it being a pregnancy. She identifies it with it being a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so if she can just stop and think, because, I'm a Christian and we're a Christian agency and we know how the enemy works. The minute that problem is solved, then will become the accusation. I can't believe you did this, in her mind. I can't believe you did this. You didn't protect your child. Even for men, there's now a lot of research out there on men who have been involved in abortions, and it has affected their ability to parent future children because they always have this underlying guilt that they weren't able to protect their child. And so, again, gently, we discuss those almost always through a question format. Do you think, might this happen? And so once she makes her decision, and sometimes she has to come back several times to even kind of talk through that, if she decides for abortion, then most often we're the only ones that know. She may be going someplace, and so she doesn't have anybody necessarily checking on her afterwards. We have called women several times that were hemorrhaging, that were afraid to go to the hospital, didn't even know if a hospital would take them. They were afraid that their parents' insurance would find out. And so we were able to talk to them and get them to a hospital. I've even gone myself with a woman who had an incomplete abortion, and to be there as a support for her. And then also, if a woman decides that, adoption is not off the table, unfortunately, many women and men equate adoption with foster care. And not that foster care is bad now, but there has been a time 20 years ago, and many of these people were raised in foster care, that they won't consider adoption because in their mind it's foster care. And so, I have heard several women tell me, I am the way I am because of foster care. And you can take that to mean, I have a drug addiction, I have an alcohol addiction. We have one client who had completely lost her hearing because she had been beaten so much. So a lot of times, we have to educate them. If they will let us on adoption, generally adoption is maybe a third trimester decision. She's decided not to have an abortion. Then she's considering parenting. And then she may look at the real picture and go, this is not going to be best for me or my family. Or maybe she just may not feel like that she's bonded to that baby. One of our clients just most recently placed her child for adoption. And she said, I just realized it wasn't mine. I don't feel like this baby is mine. I feel like I had this baby for somebody else. And so she's involved in an open adoption, and really sweet story. So
yeah, there are more of those kind of things happening where it's kind of almost co-parenting, sort of in a way.
Absolutely.
Where the birth mother is very involved with the child, or as involved as she wants to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that the culture is changing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, for initially, it's just to slow her down so that she can see that we care about her, that we're going to be honest. We're not going to sugarcoat anything, but that she knows we're there for her. We can almost always find somebody that's been in her situation. And then if she will continue to take parenting classes, even if she's not going to parent, but to the life skills and the prenatal care, then she meets other women and men, because men are invited to our classes too, that are in the same situation. And it's not always, yes, probably 80% of our clients would be considered in poverty or impoverished situations, but even college kids are in poverty. And so it's funny, the ground is pretty level at CareNet. It's like, it didn't really matter how you got here. You're all in the same boat. And so they learn together. Then they meet other people that once the baby's here, and, they have new friends that they can call on to babysit. I mean,
it becomes a support group.
Absolutely. And
or
I
a
mean,
system for them.
I see even in my own children, I mean, this generation is not as trusting probably as I was when I was a young mom. It's like, you'll take my kids, I can drop them off, see ya. I mean, they don't do that anymore. It's play dates, and we didn't have play dates. It was, no, who's going to keep my kids? And so they meet other families that they trust. And I say that all the time. I'm like, if we had 20 women come through here a year, that 20 wise women, I mean, you could change your community.
Yeah. I've always believed the abortion issue would be solved if the hearts of women were changed.
Yeah.
And that's what you're helping to facilitate through education, and the young women will leave with more than with tools.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's part of what you're.
It's always what we want to do is that they leave better than they got.
Yeah. Now this we're in the middle of a pandemic,
mm-hmm.
and so how has that affected the care that you can give? Are you doing ultrasounds? Are you able to do those kind of medical exams and such?
Well, the way we had to pivot just like everyone else. So I call it the day the world blew up. The day the world blew up, we kind of stopped and said, okay, what can we do to several different things. We had basically 3 issues to deal with. One, how do we continue offering medical services, especially because of, we didn't know how infectious this virus was. And so the way we pivoted there is we were giving pregnancy tests. We were doing self-tests. And so we would hand kind of curbside. A woman would call, she would come, we would give her the test with instructions. Then she would call us back and tell us if that test was positive or negative. If it was negative, we would continue to give STD vouchers to the health department that we pay for testing and treatment. And, say, congratulations, high five, don't do that again. Stop doing that. That's my version. They're probably a lot gentler than that. But my version is just stop it. You have a clean slate.
Yeah.
Then the other is if their test was positive, then we gave them, like we normally do, we gave them prenatal vitamins. We set up either an ultrasound with ourselves or with a physician that would get her in right away. We gave her, kind of a starter kit. A lot of times we like to give them like a little onesie or something just to connect that it's a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was a problem, it's now a baby. I mean, they're a baby. And then we immediately invited them to start attending our Zoom classes. So in our support center, that was, we have 20, 30 people a day in classes that are earning incentives, and then they get baby beds and car seats and all that. But we had to, in the support center, we had to pivot there. We didn't have any idea at first. I mean, all of us are sick of Zoom. I know. I mean, it's a love-hate relationship with Zoom. But we thought, how many clients are going to actually do a Zoom call? We've been amazed. I mean, and I guess because the schools were requiring that for the children, we'll have 20 or 30 on a Zoom call that are learning just like they would have in class. They earn points. They can come and shop in the boutique on an appointment basis. So again, social distancing, limiting that. And then we also, because we knew that, we always promised that if you have this baby, I mean, we're going to be there with you. We knew that we had clients out there that maybe they'd had their babies, but that had lost jobs and stuff. So we had enough staff, because we were all working at home at first for the first 2 weeks, other than those in the office. We called every client that we had had a positive pregnancy test for the past 3 years and asked them, how are you? How is this affecting you? Can we have someone pray for you? And is there anything that you need? And so we started the curbside, and within, the first 2 or 3 weeks, we served over 400 that came, and 120 of those, I think, were even new because they would tell somebody that would call. So we just really wanted them to know. We wanted to give them the material assistance. We wanted to give them things.
And that's like diapers and formula
diapers,
and
wipes,
wipes.
Formula, baby lotions, soaps, things that they can't buy with their food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
But then also to be able to offer the prayer support as well, and to invite them, if you need something else. And they know as long as we have it, we're going to give it. I mean, we're nonprofit in every sense of the word. We end the end of the year with no money.
Right. You give it all away.
You do.
And folks are generous with you, though. But you could use some donations, I would think.
Absolutely. So this past week, and we will do this again probably in a couple of weeks, we've taken our mobile unit.
Which is a fabulous RV.
It's a beautiful.
Yeah,
we call her Bertha. We call her Bertha. But Birtha.
There, I got it.
Anyway, so we decided, let's just take this out into the surrounding communities, because people don't have the money for gas. I mean, we can have stuff all day long, but they don't have the money to get there.
Right.
And so we had, because the community was so generous, we had the stuff to take, and we had staff, and then some volunteers are starting to come back. And so we just kind of did a maiden voyage this week and said, there again, that's one of those, well, it probably won't kill us to do it once.
Let's try it.
Let's try it. So we went to Marlin on Monday. We went to Hillsboro. We went to Gatesville today. We went to one other place, Groesbeck.
Groesbeck, yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of
so-
folks at Groesbeck.
Yeah, so I think we've already served over 150 people.
And these are people that need some diapers. I mean,
Yeah.
they need
Formula.
Right,
I mean,
the
and not only, I mean,
virus notwithstanding, kids still need diapers and
And-
women still get pregnant. I mean, it's that has
exactly.
all-
And I mean, you're limited even with us. I mean, we've had people that have given money, and then we've also had people that have just dropped stuff at the door because you're limited into how much you can buy.
Right.
Even parents, if
Oh,
they
yes.
if they have 2 or 3 children, they can't buy 3 cans of Similac because they're limited. And so we were able to go and just alleviate that. Again, took a prayer team with us if they wanted prayer. And, Monday I went, and just the best way I can describe it is just people would come and they just kind of had this hollowed look in their face. Like, one, they were probably shocked, like, what are they doing here? But the other was like, you ask them, how can I pray for you? And they just go, I just don't know. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know. I'm lost. And so people don't know, like, they don't know what's going to happen or when is life going to go back to normal. And there's a lot of people out there that, I mean, maybe you or me or different people, we have jobs, but those day laborers and people that work in restaurants and that really have to scrap and scrape, they really don't know how they're going to survive.
So it is a desperate need, really, for a lot of folks, and you're helping to alleviate that. How can folks donate if they want to help?
They can go to pregnancycare.org /support, and you can give either by credit card, you can give ACH, which is your checking account, you can do PayPal. Also, there's several Facebook donation links that you can donate on. Or if you're at the grocery store and you see Similac Advanced, that's the most popular formula. Diapers, size 4, 5, and 6 are the most popular diapers because they don't last as long. I mean, there are not many in a package. If you see baby shampoos, wipes are a big thing because, I mean, you can't even get toilet paper. You sure can't. Baby wipe. People are buying baby wipes for hand sanitizer, So if you can see those things, just every time you go to the store, get that stuff, you can take it to CareNet, 8th and Waco Drive, drop it off at either door. We would love to have your name and address just so we can thank you. But those things would be, I mean, I'm going today after I leave this show to buy all of that stuff because we're running out every day, but we have it, but it's only because people are bringing it.
Yeah, well, you do have a lot of support, and it's great to hear that. Deborah, your passion for helping folks is palpable, and I thank you so much for being with us today to talk about this.
Well, it's just the joy of my life. I mean, it really is just the joy of my life to be able to do it and to do it with so many people. So many people. We couldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do it by myself.
Well, you're not alone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Central Texas Living is part of the Rogue Media Network family. Be sure to check out their other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Living, the podcast.
This has been Rogue Media Network Podcast.